Hey you guys, and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be doing a beginner-friendly tutorial on how you can make sourdough bread from scratch. Yes, you heard me, all from scratch. Unfortunately, the bread here in the United States is trash. First of all, it's highly processed and it's not properly fermented. So a lot of the breads here can cause a lot of bloating and digestive issues for a lot of people. So sourdough bread is just such a great alternative for you. One, because it's made up of simple ingredients, and two, it is a properly fermented bread. It provides a lot of good bacteria for your gut, and the microbes throughout the fermentation process reduce the amount of gluten in the bread. So even though it's not gonna be a gluten-free bread, this is a much healthier option than 99% of the breads at your local grocery store. So I highly recommend you give this recipe a try and enjoy some delicious bread with me. So what you'll need is a bowl, some coconut oil, salt, honey, water, whole wheat flour, and some sourdough starter. If you don't have any of this already, I have a video on my channel showing you an easy recipe on how to make one. So you're gonna start off by adding in your lukewarm water and your melted coconut oil to the bowl. Then what you're gonna do is grab your whole wheat flour and add in approximately 3 cups to the mixture. Now you wanna mix this in just until the flour is decently incorporated in the mix, and it should look something like this by the end of it. Now you can go ahead and add in your honey, salt, and your sourdough starter. Mix it until it's well incorporated, and then you can add in your last cup of flour. Now for this process, I like to mix it in the bowl just until I see the flour starting to stick to the dough, and once it does, that's when I'm gonna go ahead and decide to pour it out onto my counter. Now, please make sure that before you put this dough on the counter, it is wiped down. The amount of times I got hair in my dough is a little ridiculous. Make sure to sprinkle a little flour and out your dough comes. I also like to make sure to flour my hands when I'm gonna work with the dough, just to make sure it doesn't stick onto my hands as much. Now, working with this dough, yes, is going to be very sticky. This is what I find works best with whole wheat dough, so I constantly like to add in a little bit of flour to the dough and work in the flour with my hands only for a few minutes. And as you can see, the dough does stick to my counter a little bit, but that's kind of the consistency that I'm looking for. So once I see that the flour is becoming well incorporated into my dough and it's not as sticky, I'm gonna go ahead and place it back into my bowl, cover it up with some plastic wrap, and I'll let this sit for about 20 minutes. This is what's called the hydrating process, and it's essential for your dough because it really just allows your flour to become well hydrated with all the water and wet ingredients. Once it's done, you're now going to be able to see that the dough should have risen nicely. And now I'm going to start a process called the stretching and folding process. Doing this is how you make sure you get those really nice, airy bubbles in your dough and how you get the big holes throughout your bread. So what you're gonna do for this process is you're gonna grab one side of your dough and you're gonna kind of massage and stretch it out as much as you can without breaking it. And you're gonna fold it right on over the dough. You're gonna do the same process for each of the 4 sides of your dough. Now I'm gonna cover up the dough once again with my plastic wrap and set it aside for 15 minutes. Now you need to do a total of 6 stretch and folds. 3 of them you're gonna do every 15 minutes, and the last 3 you'll be doing every 30 minutes. So in total, it shouldn't take you more than about 2.5 hours to do this whole stretching and folding process. And now you're finally gonna cover up your dough for one last time and set it aside to bulk ferment for the next 8 hours. This is really going to allow your dough to rise to its full potential and become double in size. After the 8 hours, you can now see that my dough definitely looks nice, large, fluffy, and has doubled in size. And now we're gonna just pour that out onto the clean countertop, which I forgot to flour. So please make sure you do that. And now I'm gonna cut it in half and make 2 loaves of bread. Now let me tell you that you do not need anything fancy to cut. I'm just using my cooking spatula, but I will say don't make the same mistake I did, and please wet your spatula for the love of God so it doesn't stick to the dough like mine did. Now, once you have your 2 loaves ready, you're gonna wanna make sure that you flour them lightly just so that they're easier to work with. And what you're gonna wanna do is stretch it out a little bit and fold each side over each other. I like to consider this as my little cinnamon roll. And then you're just gonna roll it up and begin to shape your dough. I like to do this by pushing and pulling my dough up against my counter, and by doing this it starts to form that round shape, and I'll just continue to do this until my loaf looks nice and cute and round. Then I go ahead and grab some wax paper and I gently place it on top of that. I make sure that I put it facing upside down, and what I like to do is I kind of shape and pinch it at the top just to make sure it doesn't open up on me. Now I just like to grab my Dutch oven, and this is where I'm gonna place it for the next hour or 2, just so my dough can do its final rise. I'm gonna cover it slightly and set it aside. Once it's done its last and final rise, you should notice that the dough has slightly grown. You're gonna now preheat your oven and the Dutch oven to 400 degrees. And while that's preheating, I'm gonna go ahead and flour up my dough once again and flip it on over. Feel free to do any designs at this point if you like. I just decided to leave it plain. And now your dough is ready to bake in your already preheated Dutch oven. Make sure you cover it with the lid and place it in the oven. You're gonna wanna let this bake for 20 minutes with the lid on and 20 minutes with the lid off. Once it's done, take it out and let it cool on the counter until it's completely cooled before you cut into your loaf. And that's it, you're finished. That's all you need for your first sourdough loaf at home. You see, it's not so bad, huh? Now you have some delicious, crispy, and gut-friendly bread to enjoy. Okay, so that's how you make your first sourdough loaf at home. I hope you guys liked it and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I gotta stop getting so close to the camera because I feel like I'm getting mad and I'm just like going like this. Welcome to my kitchen. Wait, don't look at my armpit because I haven't waxed. First sourdough loaf home. I'm getting loopy.